Fishing out the evidence, we go to News 13's Joey Popp, who's at the scene of the crime. Joey?
Cheryl and Darcel, I'm standing at the area where the Ohio couple were found slain. Actually, their bodies were found behind me here last year. Well, Sheriff Buck Lyda believes it's a crime that was committed by Roy Lee Fox. However, first-degree murder charges were dropped this summer because of lack of evidence. That's why the sheriff wants the murder weapon found.
It's here in the Buncombe County community of Alexander where Lyda believes the gun will be found, right below the bridge in Swift River Current. He's asking the state for help, but the Secretary of Crime Control and Public Safety hasn't responded.
You met with Joe Dean on Tuesday. Yes. Did he give you any impression that it wasn't going to happen?
No, he did not. He told me that the proposal was on his desk, and he had just he'd been to Ecuador where some of our National Guard were on duty, and that he had not had a chance to look at it, but that he intended to do so in the near future.
Lyda says what the state has done is bring in National Guard crews to scout the possibility. It's their expertise that can channel the water in order for the gun search to take place. He believes the project will happen regardless if the state gives it a stamp of approval.
If he turns you down, will you pursue this project?
Very definitely. Very definitely. I'm not a good scuba diver, but I'll do everything I can to make sure that we arrive at some conclusion.
You want that river dammed?
Yes.
Let me mention that Roy Lee Fox is a convicted murderer. He is serving time. Now, I did talk with District Attorney Robert Fisher this afternoon. He says that even if this plan goes through, even if the gun is found, that is not the icing on the cake, that he will have to take a look himself at this evidence to make sure that it is enough to reinstate these first-degree murder charges against Fox. Cheryl, Darcel?
Joey, we have a rainy season coming up. When do they plan to divert the water at the river?
That's a good question. You may remember that we had some rain here in the last 2 weeks, and that's what has kept the water up. That's another reason why Lyda believes that this proposal hasn't gone through. Mid-October is the rainy season, so if this is going to take place this year, we're running out of time.
Thank you, Joey.
On the anniversary, News 13's Joey Popp looked back on Asheville before the crash and after. He joins us live from downtown to remind us what happened. Joey?
Well, before the crash, Ken and Darcel, this downtown was booming. Real estate was hot, and Asheville was one of the fastest growing cities in the Southeast, competing against Atlanta and Richmond. But then the bottom dropped out, and so did Asheville's growth for the next few decades.
29, yeah.
Mildred Childs was in her first year of teaching school when she heard the stock market news.
Well, it was just as if a storm had come over, you know, and everybody was very gloomy. It was sad, really sad.
Her younger sister, Clara, also remembers.
We didn't know, of course, what the outcome would be. You know, being our ages, we weren't up on finances enough to know just what it did amount to.
But then later on, it did.
Later on, it amounted to something because, of course, they had runs on the banks.
But about a year later, everyone in Asheville knew what it meant. 4 of the city's biggest banks closed their doors. It signaled the start of gloom for Asheville. Former Mayor Gallatin Roberts and bank official Arthur Rankin both committed suicide after the banks collapsed. Soon the city owed $23 million, and it wouldn't be paid back until June 1976. But within that 45-year period, the city's growth slowed down, leaving other cities to jump ahead of Asheville.
Now, on this anniversary, many people are wondering if history will repeat itself. Most experts say it will not. But for those who lived during that time, the memories will remain forever for them. Ken Darcel.
Thank you, Joey.
An early Sunday morning start for these 30 rescue workers from Madison and Buncombe counties as they decided how to recover the body of 53-year-old Frankie Long of Cary.
Okay, we got that wrapped. I can take probably 6 in my guy.
About 10 people on the other side of the river.
The rescue personnel included 2 divers and members from the Carolina Wilderness Adventures Rafting Company.
Actually, we need 3 guys to go across to bring that boat in this boat back.
All trying to figure out how such a tragedy could happen. Mrs. Long, her husband, and 4 others were thrown from the raft when it hit a huge rock.
You ready? We're trying to rig a what's called a Telford lower system, which has a static line across the river, and we will have it rigged so that it can be controlled from each side to move a raft laterally.
More workers on hand as the ropes were being positioned to help retrieve the body pinned underneath rocks. Teams fighting a 25-mile-per-hour current. But Mother Nature's rapid flow was about to be controlled with the help of a couple of dams upstream.
And it was shortly after 11 o'clock this morning that the water began to drop. It began to get lower for the rescue team to get closer to the rock.
30 minutes later, they found her. But the rough water was not about to give up. The body was lost again.
She's back down in the hole.
Then around 12:15, it was over. The rescuers, tired and weary, brought Mrs. Long's body ashore. She was the mother of 4 children. Joey Popp, News 13, Madison County. The gathering continues to grow. Close to 500 members of the Rainbow family are settling into and calling the Nantahala National Forest home for the next few weeks. Graham County is asking for mutual aid to assist fire and emergency crews if needed. Also, the state says now that water and sanitation will not be supplied unless there's a request. The family says there probably won't be.
The sanitation problems that they're worried about, we've been dealing with for years because we live in this situation year-round. We know how to dig slit trenches for latrines. We know how to dig compost pits away from water supplies so it goes back into the ground naturally.
The food is prepared in kitchens like these. And water is taken from the earth with the help of these pipes. Members claim there's plenty for everyone, even if more than 5,000 show up by July 1st, 2 weeks beforehand, and state officials are on site helping the family.
The folks are using pitch for the sewage and doing a pretty good job with them, and Mr. Saylor's working with them on the water supply now and giving technical assistance and advice.
And your opinion of what you see?
I think they're doing a pretty good job with it so far.
This is an area where the mass gathering will take place, and anytime you have a lot of people, you have areas that are trampled, these grounds. But the Rainbow family says not to worry, that this area will be reseeded before they leave.
We have been told that we cannot have any open nudity near a public road. Now, there is lots of nudity that the family does get into because it's the free spirit that we're in. We're not ashamed of our bodies because our bodies are our temples.
The Rainbow family is still expecting a mass crowd of more than 5,000 people. Next Tuesday, members say they will appear in court to fight a state law that prohibits a mass gathering. They say it's unconstitutional since they are meeting on federal land. Joey Popp, News 13 in the Nantahala National Forest.
News 13's Joey Popp has details in this exclusive report.
63-year-old Bob Burris has been treated for a head and neck injury at Memorial Mission Hospital. An injury his son says happened here on Interstate 26 when he stopped to take a picture of a Biltmore Estate Ranger.
He then tried to take the camera away from my father, and they got into a struggle, and he wrestled my father to the ground and bumped my father's head on the back of one of their vehicles parked right back there.
When Sheriff Buckleida learned of the incident this morning, he called in Biltmore Estate's Chief Ranger. The meeting was short. What do you plan to do about this?
No comment at this time.
I have asked the Office of Internal Affairs to conduct an internal investigation surrounding the incident last Friday. And until that investigation is over, I have suspended their deposition. Therefore they have no arrest powers anywhere in Buncombe County right now.
Even on the estate?
Even on the estate.
The Rangers are special deputies of Buncombe County. They wear guns and had arresting power within the county, but ever since Lyda took office, he has stripped them of those powers because of public complaints. And now he says he will permanently strip them of arrest power on the estate property if the investigation shows the ranger at fault. In the meantime, Biltmore attorney Jack Stevens says the Rangers will continue to use their arrest power on the estate until the investigation is over. He says a special statute authorizes them to do that. Joey Popp, News 13, Buncombe County.
The state attorney general says the Rangers can still arrest people on the estate. They can do so under a special provision of state law. News 13 reporter Joey Popp tells us in this exclusive report that the reasons for the uproar remain unclear.
Last Friday, 63-year-old Bob Burris says he was assaulted and arrested by a Biltmore Ranger here on Interstate 26. When Sheriff Buck Lyda heard of the incident, he suspended 4 Rangers of their special deputy privileges, which included the power to arrest people on the Biltmore estate. However, under state law, the Biltmore Rangers still can arrest people on their property. The reason, they have that authority as state-certified company police.
That's what we recommended to them a little less than a year ago. I didn't see the need for them to have arrest powers all over Buncombe County.
Depending on the internal affairs investigation, the Rangers could be permanently stripped of their special deputy rights, something the sheriff wants. In the meantime, the sheriff says what happened Friday was out of the Rangers' jurisdiction.
Biltmore Company attorney Jack Stevens declined an on-camera interview today, but he did tell me on the phone that yes, indeed, representatives of the Biltmore Company did meet with Sheriff Buck Lyda about jurisdiction last spring. And as a result of that meeting, they feel that what happened Friday was within their jurisdiction. At this point, until the investigation is complete, it's the sheriff's word against the Biltmore Company. Joey Popp, News 13 Asheville.
News 13 reporter Joey Popp explains the powers company police have.
Richard Bernier is one of 7 so-called company police at UNCA. He's just as qualified as any other law enforcement officer in North Carolina, except he has restrictions.
As company policemen, we're entitled to powers of arrest, carry a gun, and we take reports, and strictly here on the property.
But unlike the other company police at UNCA, Bernier is also a Buncombe County Special Deputy. Volunteer work he gives with the department helps him retain that status. As a special deputy, he can also arrest people off campus. The sheriff says there's a good reason why Bernier's privileges are different from the Biltmore Rangers.
My concern is the abuse of power. That's the bottom line as far as I'm concerned.
Do you fear of losing your special deputy status?
No, I do not, as long as I do not abuse the status in which the sheriff gave me.
The sheriff says he has 28 special deputies in the county. Some of those aren't even involved with law enforcement today. However, they do continue to hold their power of arrest rights. But the sheriff also says, unlike the 4 suspended Biltmore State Rangers, these 28 have not abused their power. Joey Popp, News 13 Asheville.
News 13's Joey Popp has been covering this story all week. Tonight, he tells us there are more deputies in the county than you may think, and they can be found in some very interesting places.
Oh, wow. How you doing today? Pretty good.
This man can arrest you. Even though he wears the white coat of a physician's assistant, Gene Jackson is also a volunteer deputy for Buncombe County. Besides his full-time practice, Jackson gives at least 24 hours of his service per month as a squad leader. He's in charge of a patrol car and 5 auxiliary deputies. He says there have been times when both jobs have crossed over, like the time when he helped an accident victim on the scene.
Come the next morning, I also happened to have to make rounds on him as the fella in the white coat. And he said, I know that face, but something's not right here.
And here in Fletcher at this restaurant, you'll find another deputy hard at work. Not patrolling, but making pizzas.
Gabby, order up.
Meet Sarah Benson. Her full-time work is a far cry from her special deputy hobby.
I'm required to work 4 hours, but most of the time I work more than that. I average about 50 hours a month.
Benson and Jackson are 2 of 110 active volunteer deputies in Buncombe County. 2 months ago, Sheriff Lyda had twice that number, but expelled half since they weren't contributing their services like Benson and Jackson. These days, Lyda's keeping a close watch on the staff he's responsible for. Joey Popp, News 13 Asheville. Not too many folks in Rutherfordton knew it was on its way, but once the torch arrived, the spirit touched everyone at the courthouse square.
That was the finest thing I've ever seen in my life, to get to see it personally. You see, I've saw it a lot on the road.
Just about everyone wanted to hold it. The flame symbolizes Olympic life. It's about to ignite North Carolina's U.S. Olympic Festival.
What's it like holding that torch?
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm still a kid at heart. This is probably first and only time.
I'm going to tell you what it's like holding this torch. Our whole family ran because we believe in God, America, and the USA!
It felt like you were participating a little bit in the Olympics.
Then it was off once again, keeping a tight schedule as it makes its way through 400 communities in 26 days.
And 2.5 hours later, the torch ended up in Lake Lure. And with it is John Thompson from Buncombe County. John, what's it like?
I'm really enjoying it. It's a good moment for me and English, and being here in the middle of the mountains is the most extraordinary event in my life, really.
Only 9 more days are left in the torch run, but it stays in western North Carolina through Saturday. That's when it lights up Asheville. Joey Popp, News 13, Rutherford County.
Well, I used to be into material possession till I fell into this spiritual recession.
They're considered dropouts from society, sharing the same principles as a group from the 60s. The hippies expressed peace and spiritual awareness, and so did the Rainbow family.
It's beautiful. It's a utopian society that we create. It's all love and peace, and it's all free. We invite the whole world to come and gather with us.
More than 50 are now setting up camp, preparing for this year's annual event being held in North Carolina's Nantahala National Forest. This group will grow to 5,000 to 10,000 come July 1. That's when they will be holding a week's worth of events called the Gathering of the Tribes.
There'll be a large fire pit in the center of the meadow, and this is where our councils will happen.
They live mostly from the land, having little use for money or material things.
I see that the people are happier. My children like it, and it just feels better.
I'm a healer. I am the Rainbow Doctor. This is my lifestyle.
By the looks of you, you haven't changed your clothes in several days. It looks like you haven't combed your hair.
I haven't combed my hair in 4 years. They're called dreadlocks, and they represent my dread of what the governments of the world are doing to the peoples of the world.
So they express themselves in a way many of us thought died 20 years ago. But not for them. They live on.
We don't allow buying or selling. We discourage drugs, guns, and alcohol. And mostly we're just celebrating life and praising God that we're still here and knowing that one day we'll all get to go home.
I'm living on the road. Yes, I'm crazy.
Joey Popp, News 13 in the Nantahala National Forest.